The truth will set you free. People called me a hero of the people. But what I pulled the trigger on wasn't the enemy. That night, I fired at the truth. The day I enlisted, I promised my mother I would become a hero. I didn't know then how dangerous a promise that was. The sky over Sineju was always gray. When I stepped off the train, the mix of exhaust and the fishy smell of melting snow stabbed my nose at once. The road to boot camp was a quagmire, and my uniform still smelled new. With boots shining like brand new shoes, I kept repeating the word loyalty in my head. That word soon became my name. At first I was proud. Every morning we shouted slogans. For the motherland. For the leader. When we shouted until our voices cracked, the instructor smiled. That smile kept me alive. I watched, I memorized, I obeyed. That was how you survived. In winter we stuffed newspapers under our uniforms. When the snow melted, water seeped into our boots, and the wind cut colder than a rifle. But I was always first. In marksmanship, in reciting slogans, and in loyalty to the system. There was always a red ribbon on my chest. Model soldier. That word straightened my shoulders. People called me the people's son. To a starving soldier, that sweetness was a stronger narcotic than food. On the last day of boot camp, my company commander patted my shoulder. Your eyes hold no fear. The leader will be pleased with you. It sounded less like praise and more like an order. I smiled and saluted. But my fingertips trembled. From then on, trusted soldier always followed my name. My peers respected me, my instructors used me. Wherever I stood, I caught someone's eye. I breathed inside their expectations. Never be suspected, never waver. Loyalty isn't a choice, it's survival. Those sentences engraved themselves in my mind. At night we sang at the edge of the training ground. Out in the dark, someone tapped a helmet for rhythm instead of a guitar. Each time I thought, here, even laughter is part of loyalty. We were exhausted, but no one complained. When orders came, we smiled. If silence lasted too long, it drew suspicion. Even laughter was an order. One day, the political officer came to me. A soldier like you is rare. You'll become a star of the motherland. He pressed a small, worn notebook into my hand. Revolution Notes, the cover read. Write in this instead of a diary. Your thoughts are your ideology. Every time I remembered that, I censored my own mind. Before I thought, I summoned this system first. It was safer that way. As time passed, I lost the border between sincerity and falsehood. Every report I wrote was finished not with words but with fear. By the leader's grace, our comrades completed training safely today. It wasn't true. Someone fainted that day, but I never reported it. The system mattered more than facts. I knew that too. And the moment you told the truth, someone disappeared. Every night I traced my name with my finger. An honorable name yet unfamiliar. It made me proud, and it watched me. I was becoming less a person and more a specimen of loyalty. It sounded like praise, but it hollowed me out. One winter dawn we were given a surprise drill. Snow fell hard, and the rifle muzzles froze. The company commander shouted, "The enemy of this nation isn't out there. It's inside your heart." The words clung strangely to my ears. I thought, then do I have an enemy inside me too? My chest thudded. That single thought made the night too long. When training ended, we were deployed to the far front in North Hamgyong. There, I first saw something more frightening than real war. Deeper than rifles and orders, the face of a silence. And that face was mine. Winter arrived at the front before the calendar said so. It was only November, but snow piled to our waists, and the wind flayed our faces. We were always hungry, orders were always cold. Even there I remained the model soldier. The trust of my superiors was my shield. It let me volunteer for the warm mess hall duty and sometimes get an extra mouthful of soup. Small privileges were proof of loyalty. That was the law of the system. Then one day, as I finished cleaning the mess hall and stepped out, a low whisper came from behind the door. At first I thought it was singing, but it wasn't a song. The rhythm of the words was strange. Short, urgent. Lord, let me hide it again today. My body froze. The voice belonged to my peer, Hanchel. Quiet, less talkative than most. He crouched in the corner of the ration store. A tiny slip of paper lay in his hand, with worn letters on it. I held my breath. He hadn't even seen me, yet my heart was already running. That night, even in my bunk, the image returned. Lord. That single word circled my head. In our unit, it was the most forbidden of taboos. Believers were enemies of the people. But he was praying quietly, unmistakably. I couldn't sleep. The next day I watched him closely. His face seemed no different. He obeyed every order and marched ahead of me. But at times, his lips moved faintly, muttering something. Even in the icy wind, his lips didn't tremble. It wasn't fear, it was conviction. That expression made me uneasy. After lunch, the company commander called me. There's something off among the men lately. If you see anything suspicious, report it at once. An order, plain and simple. Yes, I'll report it, I said. The voice wasn't mine. I had become the system's mouth. As night deepened, my head tangled. Hanschel's prayer and the commander's order nodded together. His eyes hadn't lied. There was something in them. Something we had all lost, perhaps once believed. If that was faith, why did it look so peaceful? A few days later, I saw him sneak something out. A small cloth from inside his sock. Inside a scrap of paper letters. My breath caught. John. A gospel name. I looked away. Pretended I hadn't seen. But I had. That evening, the political officer gathered everyone. If subversive thought appears in this unit, it's a foe more dangerous than a rifle. Those who do not report are accomplices. His voice was cold. The word accomplice pricked my fingers. If I kept silent, I'd be an enemy too. Snow thickened by nightfall. Cold swirled inside the barracks. In my sleeping bag I glanced at Hanschel. He lay with eyes closed, a face without fear. As if he'd already made peace with the world. I wanted to wake him and ask, is that God real? But my lips would not part. One question could end my life. The next morning I wrote the report. Observed a soldier's unusual behavior, words resembling prayer. My hands shook. But I didn't stop. As soon as the report left my hands, I exhaled. For a moment I felt safe. Then my chest froze. His face returned, his lips, his eyes, and the word he had whispered in my ear. Lord, let me hide it again today. I was learning the price of silence too late. That dawn was unusually quiet. The snow had stopped, but the air still had teeth. I woke earlier than usual. My mind woke before my body. The fingers that wrote the report all night still trembled. Observed unusual behavior. I hadn't known one line could press this heavy on me. Outside the barracks, footsteps scraped the ice in the dark. The political officer approached with two state security agents. Their shadows were long and sharp. I straightened instinctively. Comrade, where is that soldier? In his bunk, sir. Fifth bed. As those words left my mouth, something inside me snapped. The door burst open. A flashlight sliced across faces. Hanschel was still asleep. An agent yanked away his blanket. Up. His voice was all blade. Hanschel opened his eyes, slowly. His gaze met mine. In that brief moment, it pierced my heart. No surprise, no anger. Only understanding. What is this about? His voice was calm. The agent kicked his sleeping bag aside. From inside, a cloth pouch fell. Within it, the slip of paper I had seen. John. My breath locked. Possession of reactionary material. Remove him. At the word, their hands bound his wrists. Chains laid a cold ring on his skin. That clink kept ringing in my head. He didn't resist. He looked at me once more. His eyes asked, why? I turned my head. Even the air grew heavy. His footprints dug deep into the snow as they dragged him out. Each print seemed to carve my name. Is this loyalty? I asked myself. No answer. Only wind. That afternoon, the political officer assembled us. Comrades, today we purged an enemy of the system. The People's Army marches only with the leader. He shouted until his throat tore. We shouted after him. Monse. Our voices were loud. Inside, I was empty. Only his sleeping bag remained. It was still warm. I touched it with my fingertips, secretly. And fear surged. That warmth felt like my guilt. Night fell. Security searched the barracks again. Under desks, inside sleeping bags, into pockets. Someone whispered, "They say he wasn't alone." The words slapped my ear. My heart froze again. I clenched my fists. I might be next. Days later, I was summoned to the commander. Cold filled his office. My report lay on the desk. "Well done. Thanks to you, the unit's been cleansed." A cigarette hung at his smile. "The party will commend you." He handed me a brownish commendation. "Citation for loyalty." I saluted like a machine. My fingertips were ice. Before he finished speaking, I heard Hanchel's voice. "Lord, let me hide it again today." That night I couldn't sleep. Close my eyes, his eyes appeared. Had I killed a man, or his belief? I didn't know. But I knew this. After that day, I'd lost any right to be called hero. The tribunal stood alone on the open plain without a windbreak. Damp crept up the walls, white breath leaked from the window gaps. My hands were tied behind my back as I walked the corridor. Boot soles scratching concrete made the square night smaller. At the door, a security agent raised a gloved hand. Snow on the glove thawed and fell as black drops. Even that sound felt like interrogation. My head dropped on its own. When the door opened, cold-soaked light struck my face. One desk in the center, behind it, a judge in uniform with a black coat. A red pouch for seals tucked in his arm. Stiff files lined up on the desk. My name was on the first page, letters beating more steadily than my heart. A portrait on the wall stared down, a verdict older than any trial. I stood at attention. My shoulders weighed heavy. Subject: "Raise your head." Short order. I lifted my gaze. His face was ice, his lips curved downward by habit. Flipping my file, he said, "You were a model soldier, accurate reports, conspicuous loyalty. And yet here lies the problem." His finger tapped a line. "Hanchel's arrest report." Letters I wrote now turned their blade toward me. "Give us more names." I opened and closed my mouth. Something hot lodged in my throat. Names flashed and vanished like lightning. Sleeping comrades' breath embodied in syllables. If I added a single letter, those breaths might stop. He paused, drew 2 lines in the margin, and raised his head. "Silence is complicity." I'd heard that sentence many times, but today it struck in a different rhythm. I nodded. No words came. He gestured. A side door opened. The swish of metal sounded cold, never kind. Hands pressed my wrists down. Force traveled from shoulder to spine. The chair's back forced mine straight. I couldn't lift away. The questioning was neither long nor short. The questions circled the same place. My answers grew lighter. I didn't believe what I said, and they wanted words I couldn't believe. With no space to turn my head, my eyes fixed on cracks in the floor branching like twigs. Had the fracture begun in this room, or in me? I couldn't tell. Last question: did you harbor or side with believers in God? His voice lowered, and lower, cut sharper. I drew a breath. My chest tightened. I wanted to run on tiptoe, but snow weights on my ankles kept me fixed. Hanchel's eyes returned. The sleeping bag's warmth, the rattle of chain, the silence he gave me last. I realized too late that silence was the most dangerous language he had taught me. "Answer!" The shout lashed my back. I bit my lip and whispered, "No." A lie. I hadn't sided with him, but I hid him. Until I reported him, I bore his prayer alone. Those days were my complicity. The lie hit the air. The chair creaked. The judge's face didn't change. He pressed a bell. Printed confessions, blanks to be filled, were brought in. The verdict had been made before the truth arrived. "Just sign." "You're a fine hero." "Anyone can err." "The party is magnanimous." Magnanimous flashed like a sheathed blade, sharper within its scabbard. I took the pen. My hand shook, blue veins rippling like a river under thin ice. A box read: "Final statement." It looked far away, like a distant fluttering light. I wrote one sentence: "I am no hero of the people." The room seemed colder. A shadow crossed the desk, covering my line then revealing it. He cocked his head, read it twice, drew a red underline. "If not a hero, then what are you?" I didn't answer. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. Saliva dried, breath grew shallow. He asked again, "A traitor? Incompetent? Or a follower of God?" 3 words lay before me: to cliff. I closed my eyes. Far away, A winter whistle blew. On the snowfield we shouted slogans. I answered louder than anyone. That voice had brought me here. Honor wasn't a rope that raised me, it was a cord that tightened my neck. I opened my eyes very slowly. I obeyed the army's orders. It saved me neither from guilt nor judgment. He chuckled. Then obey a greater order. Sign. The pen scratched. My name settled on the last line, the air hardened, and the seal struck a short, gun-like thud with a long echo. He closed the file. Temporary confinement. Ideological re-education, then final disposition. Disposition told in my skull. Dragged out. I glanced back. The portrait still stared forward. My line lay pinned on the desk. I am no hero of the people. It looked like the grave of my voice. The corridor was darker, longer. Lights flickered. My shadow tore in pieces. Down the metal stairs each step shivered. The basement door opened. Smells surged. Wet cloth, rust, old blood. I kept my head down, watching only my toes and the dried mud cracking like a map. The cell door shut. The sound climbed my spine to my heart. A narrow room, one wall, one cot, one bucket. A bulb trembled overhead. I crouched to breathe, but my lungs moved like they weren't mine. Then a low sound seeped through the wall. Lord, let me hide it again today. I covered my ears, but the prayer didn't flow from the outside, it moved inside me. It wasn't Honchel's voice anymore. It was mine. Even without sound, the prayer kept its shape under my tongue. I watched myself slide past fear into despair. Fear makes you want to run. Despair erases the direction. Night fell deeper. The bulb swung once. I pressed my forehead to the wall, cold and damp. Moisture smeared down to my lids. Snow or water, I couldn't tell. Footsteps halted at the corridor's end. A small window let in a thread of light. I stared at it and whispered, barely audible, but clear inside me. I am not a hero. I am a witness. Darkness stepped back a little, only a little, but surely. Until the next footstep, I breathed. A living breath. My last drill before the verdict. At dawn, the door opened. Metal scraped metal, splitting the cell's air. An agent called my name. Soldier of the Korean People's Army. Name. Prepare to move. He spoke like he was reading the end. I stood. My body wasn't light. After days without proper sleep or food, my head felt oddly clear. Chains bit my wrists again. The cold metal on skin told me I was alive. Being alive meant time remained to confess. The corridor stretched. Puddles gleamed like ice, thawed and frozen again. The agent said nothing. Climbing the stairs, the light grew larger. Out of the basement, iron gave way to the smell of earth. A strangely warm scent. Outside, snow was falling. A white world. I looked up. The sky was so quiet it felt like I could hear something. An old sentence rose inside me. Do not be afraid. I didn't know who said it, but it breathed within me. We walked behind the tribunal. Footprints ran long in the snow, ending at a small wall. Inside the wall, a soldier waited. Rifle in hand, eyes averted. I prayed he wouldn't look at me. He, too, was chained by orders. The agent stopped me and unfolded a paper. Treason against the state. Ideological contamination. Re-education impossible. Final disposition. Execution by firing squad. He read without inflection. Strange, I wasn't afraid. I had been living beyond death for some time. Then he held out a single sheet. Leave your final statement. A pencil pressed into my hand. I paused. Wind brushed the snow-white breath fell onto the page. I wrote slowly. Forgive him. He informed on me, but he was trying to save me. He peered at the line, puzzled. What does that mean? I didn't answer. Some things cannot be explained. God's language and my last breath. A gun cracked somewhere far off. The wind turned. I closed my eyes and prayed, very briefly, Lord, let me hide it again today. Snow whipped harder. A crow cried somewhere. Time seemed to halt, but air still moved. In it, I felt my body lean back. Then suddenly, all sound stopped. Who knows how long passed. Footsteps came across the snow toward my body. They covered me with a white cloth and left without a word. Only the wind remained. But in that wind, I clearly heard it. Someone reading my line in a very quiet voice. I am no hero of the people. It wasn't my voice. Perhaps another soldier's. Someone still alive. When he read my sentence aloud, I was finally free. The snow did not stop. After that day, The unit went quiet as if nothing had happened. The report was discarded. The record read only one line: died during re-education. His name was erased from the roster, his face cut out from group photos, as if he had never existed. Months later, when spring came, I went there in secret. Behind the tribunal, a treeless hill. There was no marker where they said he lay. The snow had melted, but the soil was still cold. I knelt. When my palms touched the earth, a chill flowed into my hands, as if a trace of his breath still warmed it. No one was around. In the distance, a military flag shivered in the wind. A migrating bird passed, dropping a silent shadow. Under it I whispered, "Han Chul, I'm sorry." Saying his name out loud cracked a stone lodged inside me. No tears came. Something deeper slid down. The wind changed. Dust scattered like flakes of snow. A scrap of paper rolled toward me. Instinctively I reached out. An old prayer fragment. Letters blurred by red earth still legible. "Lord, let me hide it again today." I stared at the line for a long time, folded it, and tucked it into my chest. After that day, I never wrote another report. Even when orders came, I stopped raising my hand. Instead, each night I opened a small notebook and wrote his name. Han Chul alive. That was my confession. They could come interrogate me, it didn't matter. The language he left had already entered me. Spring returned, the unit's snow melted. People forgot him. But one day on that unmarked hill. Thank you for watching this story.